former Bills great, now a member of the NFL on CBS broadcast teams, analyst Steve Tasker. Steve, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks so much for joining us. And, I want to start with the Pittsburgh Steelers because they've got Super Bowl aspirations. They are one of the best teams in the league, and yet with all of that weaponry on offense, they can't seem to kind of break out. They have yet to hit 30 points this season. What do you think the key is for that offense finally living up to its potential?
I think a little bit of it has to do with consistency. They've got to run the ball when they want to run it, and they've got to be able to throw it well enough when they want to throw it to stay on the football field offensively. And defensively, it's kind of the same thing. You can't let big plays go. You can't let teams leak out in the run game. And I think one thing that would really help the Pittsburgh Steelers if they got a few more turnovers. That's always a good thing. And I think I don't. It's not one of those things where this is a bad team that's got a glaring weakness, but I do think they can play just with a little more grit than I've seen them play this year. This is a team that, back in the day, they were ready to fight after every third down. And, I don't see that so much this year. And I think some of it stems from, Ben Roethlisberger, even from the beginning of the season, was toying with maybe, this may be his last year, kind of dangling that out there. I think that gets in the way sometimes of a team that really wants to cut it loose. But no question, they're a good football team.
One of the concerns surrounding the Steelers in Pittsburgh is the relationship between Todd Haley and Ben Roethlisberger. There's a concern that it once wasn't that great. It got better. Maybe it's not that great anymore. Do you think that has anything to do with why they haven't been able to kind of reach their potential?
Well, there's certainly that has been out there, no question about it. And both those guys, I've met and spoken with both of them. Todd Haley has some deep beliefs about how to run an offense. And, of course, Ben Roethlisberger, as any good quarterback has some pretty strong beliefs about what he wants to run. And unless those two guys get together, they've got to come to at least a truce or an understanding about how they're going to run the offense, what it's going to look like, and what they're going to do. So until they come to an understanding, you're right. It is out there that those two have not been getting along, or at least are butting heads. That was the way it was early in their tenure as well. They didn't get along at all, and it kind of went away when they had some success. And now when they're making another playoff push, I would tend to say it's overblown. There is probably some tension there, some things that they still don't agree on. But having said that, I think these are two guys that know that in order to make this season everything they want it to be, they're going to have to work together. I think you can count on them doing that.
Steve Tasker joins us from the NFL on CBS. Steelers and Titans tonight. Titans are 6-3, tied atop the AFC South Division with the Jacksonville Jaguars. In your estimation, who's the better football team, Jags or Titans in that division?
Well, I like the Jaguars. They're a good football team. They're playing. Leonard Fournette gives them something that they haven't had for a while, and that is a big, bruising running back who can also get to the edge. They've got a great swag about them. I think their defense has made all the difference for them. That has been an enormous surprise to a lot of people. With all the teams that they have put together down there, there's been a lot of years where the talent didn't add up to what was on the field or maybe the talent was more than what was on the field. They just didn't put it together. Well, now Doug Marrone has got them playing extremely good defensive football, and that gives them a chance in every game, and I think that's been the difference. They have taken a lot of the pressure away from Blake Bortles. They've kind of taken the game out of his hands. Fournette has allowed them to do that. That's also given them a little bit more of a boost than you would think it would, and I think as long as they can continue to do that, they're going to be tough to beat.
You know that the Buffalo Bills are seeking that first playoff bid since 1999, and now they've made a quarterback switch going to young Nate Peterman, the rookie. Do you think this was the right move by Sean McDermott?
Well, it remains to be seen, and certainly they've made some giant decisions of this nature throughout the course of McDermott's short tenure here in Buffalo. They made a handful of trades. Some of the best and most recognizable names on the roster were traded away for draft picks and other players as well. All those moves have seemed to be a positive. They're in the playoff mix at the halfway point of the season. They feel like they're in a good spot. And of late, defenses have begun to take Tyrod Taylor away, and that means LaShawn McCoy has been easy to focus on for the defenses, and they have needed a spark. They have not been able to stay on the field with first downs. The New Orleans Saints this last week had 41 minutes of possession time, and the Bills, as a subsequent consequence of that, gave up 298 yards rushing this last weekend. So in order to get some complementary football going, the Bills' offense has to stay on the field, and Tyrod Taylor was not doing that. They felt they needed this spark to make it happen, and they made this move.
Steve Tasker joins us, NFL on CBS analyst. I want to ask you about the Greg Olsen situation because you have a very unique perspective on this. As a former player yourself, you're working with a telecast, with a broadcast, speaking to coaches, some inside information or whatnot. Obviously, you're retired. When it comes to Greg Olsen and the Vikings being concerned that he, as an active player, is going to be on a broadcast of a game where he might have inside information against the opponent in an upcoming week, do you think that's a legitimate concern by the Vikings or much ado about nothing?
I would say it's much ado about nothing. I mean, job one, there's no question that job one for a broadcaster is to, when you go into these production meetings with head coaches and players and coordinators on both sides of the ball, on both sidelines before a game, job one is to not do or say anything that will tip the competitive balance of the game you're doing. That's job one. Secondly, it's hard to get a head coach or player to speak about issues that are actually relevant to that game or other games. They're just too tight-lipped. And I think since they know he's a current player, I don't think they're going to give him much information. I would be more concerned about Olsen's regular team, the other team. That's you have to work really hard in the broadcast business to make it look very easy. It sounds easy. It looks easy when you're in the booth. Guys just talk off the cuff. It sounds like they're just kind of showing up and having fun with their partner in the booth. You got to put a lot of work in to make it happen and make it sound smooth and easy. And I think that's got to be a huge distraction for Olsen, for a guy who's actually an active player who's got a lot to think about for his own career and own season coming up. So I'm thinking, it's equating to a guy, doing going into the office all week away from the team while you're on the bye week, and it's. I think it's a bigger distraction, a bigger problem for Olsen and his team than it is for the Minnesota Vikings and down the road for them this season.
That's interesting. Final question for you. There's going to be an interesting race for one of the final two AFC playoff slots, and that Bills team's in that mix, and we've mentioned a couple of other teams that might be in the mix as well, the team that does not win the AFC South. Do you think the Bills, by making a quarterback change right now, can make that first playoff bid since '99, even with a rookie quarterback down the stretch?
Well, they certainly could. They're going to have to get a spark on offense. Early in the season, they were doing extremely well, and they were getting a lot of wins. I mean, this is a team that when the season started, there's no way you could have said that they were going to beat Atlanta, they were going to beat Denver, they were going to win a game against Tampa Bay and then beat Oakland as well. But those are the four of the 5 games they've won. Those, before the season started, those were 4 teams that were really going to take a step forward this year. Atlanta being the NFC defending champions. And the Bills beat all of those teams, and they were doing it because the Bills' defense was churning out turnovers at an incredible rate. Now, there was a 3-game stretch where they had 15 turnovers. So that is what has fueled their run to the playoffs. Other than that, when those turnovers dried up, as they have in the last 2 games, they looked bad against the Jets and they looked horrific against New Orleans. Unless Nathan Peterman can come in and spark an offense to score some points, I don't know if the Bills can make that run. But if he can, and this defense gets more opportunities to be on the field when a team is not playing with a double-digit lead, and the turnovers will start to come again, and this is a team that could do that. And plus, look at the other teams. I mean, Miami, Baltimore, it's out there to be had for the AFC. That wild card, you're right, those last 2 wild card spots are up for grabs, and it'll be interesting to see which team comes away with it.
Steve Tasker, analyst for the NFL on CBS, joining us here on the show, the CBS Sports Radio Network. Thanks so much, Steve. It's always great to catch up. Appreciate it.